that, okay, so just to inform you that the recording is in progress. So I think we are waiting for 1 or 2 people from the Women's Institute to join us. But in the meantime, please do feel free to, it'll be really helpful if you could introduce yourself in the chat. If you could let us know who you are, where you are, what organization you're representing, if you are representing any organization. And also, if you are on Facebook, on Twitter, please do engage via social media. You can use the hashtag Her Vote Speaks or My Vote Speaks for any comments that you may have. We're really keen to make this as interactive as possible. And just a bit of housekeeping. You'll already know, because we've been doing this for 18+ months in the pandemic. If you're not speaking, please put yourself on mute. Yeah, because it can be really distracting if there's background noise. And also, as I said previously, please do feel free to turn on your cameras because it will make for a much more engaging conversations. So I think we're just waiting for someone from the Women's Institute. Sinalo, do you mind putting yourself on mute? Thank you. Okay. Just give us an additional minute as we wait for the good people at Wild to join. Okay, so I understand that the person's joined, so we will start. So I went through just some housekeeping. Again, please do feel free to use the hashtag My Vote Speaks, Her Vote Speaks, and also tag the Women's Institute for Leadership Development so that we can have an engaging conversation. So really excited about this. We will be speaking to 2 young, passionate speakers just about the work that they're doing on the ground. And as you know, a big milestone coming up in Zimbabwe is the elections in 2023. And I know some people may think 2023 is far off, but actually it is not. And a key constituency is young people. Approximately 67% of Zimbabweans are considered young. And in the last elections, we had about 40+% of young people turning up. And we just want to have these conversations to discuss ways that young women particularly can feel engaged and informed to be part of the electoral process. My name is Natasha Fuyane. I am a writer and I'm also a co-host of Galen Sky's podcast. So I will be moderating this discussion for you. Yeah, I think that's it. And I'll also be looking on social media and picking up any, interesting questions or comments that you may have. And again, please do feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Please register, which organization you're representing. Any questions that you may have or any comments, please put them in the chat box. And at a later time, we'll address that. So just to kick off, I'm just going to hand over to Permanent Ngoma, who is the programs manager at the Women's Institute for Leadership Development. And yeah, if Permanent is online, if they could introduce.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Natasha, for that. My name is Permanent Ngoma, as she has mentioned. My task is just to welcome everyone to this dialogue, where us as young people, we discuss our participation in electoral processes, looking at the upcoming elections, which is the by-elections. How can we as young people also participate? How can we make our voices heard through the election? Let's be let's engage and discuss and deliberate our fears, our wishes in terms of the upcoming election that's coming up. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. And really important that you mentioned the by-elections, a mission on my part, because that is so important. Local elections are very important. So we're now going to get into the meat of the discussion. So what we'll do is we'll start off with two speakers who will talk about their work, and then later on we will then have a more open discussion about the work that they're doing. So first of all, really excited, Tatenda Kombora, who is a gender activist, will talk to us about young women's role in effectively participating in the Zimbabwean electoral system. Tatenda is doing a lot of great work, and I'm sure in the time that she has, she will let us know. Tatenda, you've got 15 minutes, and yeah, we're looking forward to hearing from you. Is Tatenda there? Okay, I'm sure I did see her, but assuming that there may be some.
Guys.
Oh, hi Tatenda, great.
So I'm not sure if my screen is very visible, if people can actually see, but anyway, can you see me?
Yes, we can see you. Thank you.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for this platform. For me to just be here and speak about such a very important topic.
Tatenda,
Yes?
apologies. Sorry, just to stop you. There's two issues. Ayanda, can you put yourself on mute? I think there's quite a few people that haven't put themselves on mute. And also Tatenda, if you could move with the device that you're using a little bit closer, because you sounded really low. Okay. Thank you.
All right, can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay, so as I was saying, thank you so much for the platform. I would just like to thank World for this amazing platform. It really means a lot for me to be here, to be talking about such an important topic, because I feel that in the Zimbabwean context, this is one of the most important periods that we find ourselves in, and it is really one of the most it could be revolutionary if we really take it up and if we are up to the task. So as has already been mentioned today, I'll be about the role of women in effectively participating in the electoral process. So I'll do a mini introduction about myself. My name is Tatenda Kombora. I run a foundation called the BlackUnika Foundation. It centers on the principles of Pan-Africanism, feminism, and humanitarianism. I've been in the civil space ever since I was 15. Don't ask me how old I am, because that is rude. So I've been in the civil space ever since I was 15, and since then I've been doing different community developmental projects. Currently, I am doing with my foundation, I'm doing a project for the children living in the rural areas, which is what we're terming the education campaign. So we're collecting textbooks and exercise books and setting up mini libraries in the rural areas. So that is just generally what I'm doing currently right now. I'm also a former television presenter at ZBC, and I'm really just very passionate about women, about politics as a whole, and governance issues. And so this is really a very it's an honor for me to be here. So I'd just like to start by doing this. I want to focus on the electoral process in Zimbabwe so that we understand it and we understand the different facets that make up the electoral system in Zimbabwe, so that we can then see the gaps or rather where we can then start to play an essential role. So I feel like I'm talking to myself. If there's anybody else that can turn on their video, and people in the chat box, please, I need to see that I'm talking to people. So if you've just joined us, please say hi to me. And if you're with us, just say hi to me so that I can see if you guys are receiving my messages as well. Okay, so the first part of my presentation will be, thank you, Bushe. I see you're saying you're following. Thank you so much. The first part of my presentation will be on the election processes. So in Zimbabwe, we have, or rather the election process has 3 phases. We've got the pre-election phase, we've got the election phase itself, and we've got the post-election phases. So I'll explain this in the best way that I can. Remember, I don't work for ZEC or anything, but this has been gotten through research and other means. So I want to explain it to you so that you can best understand, and then we go from there. Pardon me. So as I said, there are 3 processes: pre-election phase, the election phase, and then the post-election phase. So for example, when we're talking about the pre-election phase, it is what we're doing now. The delimitation processes, the registration processes, they all make up what we then call the pre-election phases. So this is setting up the ground for there to be an election in any country. And it's currently what we're doing right now in Zimbabwe, the delimitation process, and also the registration of people as voters in Zimbabwe. And so then there is the election phase, where we actually go and cast the votes that or when we choose who we want to be our members of parliament, our councillors, our presidents. Then there is the post-election phases that will be generally looking at, okay, what then, like the processes that took place, if there are any incidences that took place. Like, for example, the 2018 election, we had the August uprisings, if I can call them that. Then like different things, then looking at the pre-election and the election phase itself, looking at analyzing it, looking at monitoring it the next time, and so many other processes that go into it. So with that being said, I'll then like to say that what we have to understand as young women is the importance of the pre-election. A lot of us might be so happy going to be voting in 2020 election, or we are going to be running the 2020 election. But what we have to understand is that the pre-election phase is one of the most important phases in the election process, and it is important for both the candidate and also just the ordinary citizen who's going to go and cast the ballot. And I'll explain to you why this is so. I'll just like to take you back to what we call registration. So registration is whereby we're saying, I want to be recognized as a voter in Zimbabwe. And so your details are taken down, etc. And then from that process, we then get the list of candidates that we're going to be voting for, and then we actually go and vote. And as young women, we have to make sure that we effectively participate as candidates. We also effectively participate as voters as well. But what we've seen happening in the past decades, and what is currently the trend right now, is that people are not registering to vote. And I'm so happy that I'm sharing the platform with Tariro, who's taken the initiative upon herself to get people to register to vote, which is so important. And so part of the election rhetoric that we've had in Zimbabwe, and I've heard ever since I was born, is that elections don't work, that elections are rigged, and it's whether you vote or you don't vote, it's nothing is going to change. But what I would then like to say, and what I want to be quoted as saying, is that these are all myths. In Zimbabwe, there is actual proof that elections do work. There is proof that it is important that we vote because voting actually matters. So where this thing of saying that elections don't work, of saying that elections are already rigged, are just myths, and I'm just going to be destabilizing or demystifying this myth as a whole. So first of all, the myth that say that voting doesn't work or voting doesn't change things. If we are to look at the 2008 elections in Zimbabwe, those were the elections whereby a lot of us who went out, we voted for a certain political party, and the political party won. And after that, there were so many, there was violence, and people were beaten, and there had to be like a unilateral government with both ZANU-PF and MDC. But the uptake or the result of that was to make it clear that actually voting does work, because even the then current president did say, I actually lost the election, and there was evidence to prove that the election had actually been won by the other party. So in that aspect, this then proves that when people actually vote for the people that they want, and voting does work in that instance. Again, in Zimbabwe, or rather in Bulawayo, in Bulawayo in 2018, I remember that a lot of us, when we went to vote, we didn't look at who the candidates were or what they were offering or whatever. What we're looking for was a particular party. And in Bulawayo, I was so happy, if I have to say, I was so happy to see that people went out in their numbers. And it wasn't just about the numbers for me, but it was going out and saying that we are going out because we've got this one purpose. And this one purpose was to put a certain political party in power. And in Bulawayo, out of the 12 constituencies, 11 of them went to the political party that people actually wanted, and then I think one only went to a certain political party. And this then proves that in Bulawayo, we cannot sit here and tell ourselves, our friends, and other children and young children to say, there is no reason why you should go and register to vote because voting doesn't work. While listening, actually in Bulawayo, that when we went out on and all of us had unity of purpose to say, let's go out and vote for a certain political party. That political party actually came into power in Bulawayo in the member of parliament elections, or in the member of parliament roles. So this then shows that beyond reasonable doubt that elections do work in Zimbabwe, and that your voting matters, your vote matters, and it is important that you go cast out your vote. So this is just one process that I was talking about, which is the election process. Just like you to be able to say, I'm going to make my voice be heard, I'm going to go and vote. You have to be a registered voter. So how many of us here are registered voters? So now, please, I'm seeing a lot of people are saying following, which is very important. Please, I'm charging my phone. I'm seeing a lot of people that are saying following. Thank you so much. If you are a registered voter, please kindly indicate in the chat box. I just want to see how many of us are registered. And what I also know is that a lot of us have not registered because of some of the reasons that I've put forth. And I hope that, and Dando just said, Dando Swan just said, I'm a registered voter. And the way you said it, it just showed that you're proud to be a registered voter. And it is important that you are a proud registered voter, because it means that you'll be able to make your voice be heard in one of the most important elections in Zimbabwe. So in my introduction, or in my short profile, which is on screen right now, you can see that I was a part of the junior parliament. So I'll just like to give you a small history about the junior parliament in the context of us seeing why it is important, or how we can actively participate in the electoral processes in Zimbabwe. When I was a junior parliamentarian, I was from Bopoma Pelandaba constituency, which is I live and where I lived at that time. And so Bulawayo had then 12 constituencies. And whenever we went for the elections, so the junior parliament also focuses rather, or it follows the same way how the senior parliament so what we did was that we would be choosing junior MPs, a member of parliaments will be chosen through the same ballot system here in Bulawayo or in other parts of the country, and there'll be the 210 constituencies. Then we'd go to Harare, the 210 of us, then we'd choose a junior president. So each one of the 210 MPs would then choose a president. But then in Bulawayo, we had 12 constituencies. That meant that we had 12 junior MPs coming from Bulawayo, whilst provinces such as Mashonaland, West Mashonaland, East Harare, etc., they had 38, 39, 40 constituencies. So if you are to look at the history of the junior parliament, you'd see that there are very few, I know of two, there are very few junior presidents of the junior parliament that have come from Bulawayo. And it is really because of this fact, the fact that in Bulawayo, there are only 12 constituencies, while in provinces such as Harare, Mashonaland, West Mashonaland, East, Mutare, etc., all those other provinces, they've got 38, 40 constituencies. So it means that they've got more people voting for them. And so I'm guessing you're wondering why this is important, because this is also what happens in the senior parliament, because in the senior parliament would have Bulawayo having 12 constituencies and therefore translating to having 12 MPs. When we then see that Harare would have 38 or 40, Mashonaland, East Mashonaland, West. And so that already means that in the game of numbers, Bulawayo only has 12 voices, whilst another province in Mashonaland, East or West, has 38 to 40. That is more than double, or rather triple. It's like triple that number. And so it then becomes a huge challenge for a Bulawayo MP to then make a Bulawayo agenda, a national agenda. Remember in 2018, we had the problems of Fuzu parties. I'm no longer sure about the year, but please pardon me. We had the problem about Fuzu parties here in Bulawayo, but we never saw that becoming a national agenda, because at the end of the day, Bulawayo only has 12 constituencies. So this is why it is important that each and every one of us here in this discussion and in our homes, our neighbors, we encourage them to go register to vote, because the more of us that register to vote, it then translates to more constituencies for Bulawayo, and more constituencies for Bulawayo then translate to then say that we've got more voices from Bulawayo, that then turns into more power for Bulawayo, and making sure that Bulawayo issues become national issues and national agendas. So for the moderator, please tell me how many minutes I have left, so that I see how I can carry on with my presentation.
Tatenda, if you could wrap it up in 3 minutes, but then we will continue the conversation when we open the discussion. So just 3 more minutes, if that's okay.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. So this little story of mine was for you to see why it's important for you to register to vote, and I hope that by that you also see. But what I've also seen in terms of the trends and why people don't register to vote is also because we don't understand the process. So the process in Zimbabwe, the electoral process, is that we have, what makes a constituency is not the length of the constituency, it is in how many people are registered to vote. And the Constitution, or rather the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission Act, Act says that for a place to be recognized under ZEC as a constituency, it needs to have 26,000 people, which needs to have plus or minus 20% of 26,000 people. That means anything from 21,000 to 32,000 people can do. So if you live in Magwegwe, for Magwegwe to be recognized as a constituency, Magwegwe can have 50,000 people. It can even have 100,000 people. But if we do not have 26,000 or 21,000 or 32,000 people that are registered in Magwegwe as voters, then Magwegwe will not be recognized as a constituency. So they don't look at how big a constituency is. A constituency can be as big as Country Park, but even if it's as big as Country Park, if only 15,000 people are registered, then it means that it won't be seen as a constituency. And that is a disadvantage to you as a citizen of Zimbabwe. And let me explain why it is a disadvantage. This is me wrapping up, moderator. So what happens is that the reason why we have these representatives and say, I live in Luveve, the reason why you have a Luveve MP is because they live where you live, they understand the issues that are there. If the sewage based, the chances are they'll also be passing by the same route. So they see that the switch base and then they can therefore act. If there happens to be an electrical fault, they also live in the same neighborhood. So they will then be able to say, okay, I don't have electricity, and they know the pains of not having electricity, so they'll be forced to act. If you want anything, you can go to their homes, you can call them. These are people that you can see, or at least this is the expected result of us having MPs in our communities, because this is not always the case. But that is what happens in some of the constituencies and constituencies that I live in. So having a person living close to you means that they understand your issues more, and you are at a greater advantage of being able to access them. But take, for instance, a Luveve MP is not MP for only Luveve. They are MP for Luveve, for Country Park, and for Emakhandeni. How many people live in those areas? And maybe it might be 300,000, so many people that live in all those areas. So how then would the senior MP then get time to walk around Luveve, Makhandeni, Country Park to understand what Makhandeni, Country Park, Luveve all need? And so this becomes a disadvantage to you, because already most of us, we don't have that much access to people that represent us either in council or in parliament. And so us then having to share them with more people, it becomes a challenge. It's just like when a parent has when a parent has 7 children compared to a parent having 3 children. A parent who has 3 children is at a greater chance of being able to take care of needs of their children, whether it's financial, it's emotional, than a parent who has 7 or 11 children. So this is why it's important for us to register to vote in the areas that we live in, so that these areas are recognized as constituencies. So I think I can just go on and on, but for now, this is what I leave you. And so I'll just like to thank you for the opportunity. Moderator, back to you.
Thank you so much, Tatenda. I don't know about everyone else. I've been scribbling notes. You've shared some information that I didn't know, but we'll definitely come back to that. So just next, I will ask Tariro Gurure. She will speak to us about inclusions of persons with disabilities in Zimbabwe, and also about the democratic process. Tariro, hi.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Tariro, sorry, so I'm Tariro, I'm just going to stop you. Just for, I'm not sure if it's just me, but I'm having trouble. I think your connection is a bit patchy. Are other people in the chat also having issues? If someone could. Yeah, Tariro, we're having trouble hearing, but I don't know if you want to try again. Let me keep quiet and you try again. It's still not clear connection. Yeah, people are saying the network. What we can do, okay. Tariro, I don't know if you want to sort of try to log back in.
Or can you hear me now?
No, it's still unclear. I think if you could try to log out and then log back in, if that's okay. Okay. Whilst Tariro is working on that, and it's to be expected. We are at the mercy of the internet and the like. Tatenda, I hope you're still here. I just wanted to use this opportunity to, so there's a question that came from Millicent Ngezimana. I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly, Millicent. The question, Tatenda, was, so Millicent says, I'm registered as well, but how do I change from Harare Center to Bulawayo? Please assist. I don't know if Millicent, if you wanted to unmute and maybe give more context. Tatenda, are you?
Okay, yes, I'm still here. I was waiting if she'll then want to explain it in a context that we'll then be able to understand.
Oh, yeah.
Hello. Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me now? Hello.
So I think there's a number of, I think
Can you hear me
trying
now?
to speak. Tariro, your network still sounds, the connection is still bad.
I'm here now. Can you hear me?
Hello.
The network is still, yeah. We were still not hearing you well. Okay, yep, if you can do that.
Hello.
Okay, right, so if we can just, Millicent, I think you were trying to speak.
Yes, I was trying to say that, so I registered in Harare as a voter, right, in the last election, but then now I'm back in Bulawayo. So since you vote where you registered, I can't go back to Harare now to various reasons. How then can I make a transfer, should I say, back to Bulawayo to be registered for the site, not in Harare? How do I go about it?
Tatenda?
Okay, so I think I can try and answer that, and I'll also be telling this to other people. So what I don't understand is whether you registered to be a voter in Harare or you just registered to vote in Harare, because the two are different. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission allows for a person to register to vote in any constituency or in any province. So take, for instance, I'm in Harare. I can go at any registration center and register to vote, but I can use my Bulawayo address, my Bulawayo proof of residence, and my Bulawayo ID to show that I live here in Bulawayo, and I'll still be registered to vote here in Bulawayo. And the registration center that I'll be using to vote will then be in Bulawayo as well. So I don't know that if that is what. Sorry, I couldn't get that.
I think, Tariro, if you could just put yourself on mute as Tatenda finishes her answer. Yeah, go on, Tatenda.
Oh, okay, so I'm saying that you can register to vote anywhere in the country, but you registering to vote anywhere in the country also allows you to be a registered voter where you are. So I can be a Bulawayo citizen, but I'm currently in the registration processes. I'm currently in Harare, and I decide to go and register to vote. They allow me to do that, but since in the registration process, they need the proof of residence. So your proof of residence can be your water bill for a Bulawayo address. They'll then assign you the registration center for a Bulawayo place because you're a Bulawayo resident. So I don't know that in her case, whether she registered as a Harare citizen or as a Bulawayo citizen. But then I'm just also telling this to anyone else who then decides maybe they are currently in a different city and they haven't been able to register, but you can still go and register and still be registering in the same constituency that you actually live in and not your temporary one. I hope that makes sense.
Millicent, was that helpful? Yeah, said okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Tatenda. I think what I would also just ask is, I'm giving an action to some, just to corroborate that and then perhaps tweet it and share it on social media, because I'm sure there are many other people that have the same question. Okay, just quickly, before we move on to Tariro, Suoluhle, I can see you've got your hand up. Did you have a quick question?
Yes, am I audible?
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to react on Tatenda Kombora's presentation. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, what I picked most in her is especially to women and young people, because truly speaking, most of the young people in communities have that feeling that voting does not work. And the other thing, the issue of identification cards makes it a disadvantage for people to register to vote. You find that there are most people without IDs, especially in Culture Park. I stay in Culture Park. So when it's voter registration time, I think it is essential for maybe the ministry to ease the restrictions so that everyone easily accesses IDs. Participation is key, but the issue of identification cards tend to be a hindrance. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope I was audible.
Yes, you were. Thank you so much, Suoluhle. That's a really, really good point. And I think it leads us nicely to the inclusion work that Tariro does. So Tariro, let's just try again, and hopefully this time we can hear you. Tariro, I can't hear. I don't know if you're speaking or. Okay, I think we're still having issues. If there are any people in the chat who can just confirm, in case it's just me. Yeah, no, Tariro, I think we're still having issues. I think what I would suggest, maybe if we try one more time for you to log out and log back in. But as I said before, we are at the mercy of the internet, so it's to be expected. And hopefully, this is the first of many discussions. What I did want to highlight, just sort of, hopefully Tariro will have a chance to speak to us, but if not, like I'm saying, I'm hoping that this is the first of many discussions, because I think it's really important, when we talk about access to certain things that help, that help you to be registered to vote. So like Sugolile, you said about the IDs, that's quite key. I was looking at Tariro's work and looking at her social media, and there's a really good point that she made to the Zimbabwean Electoral Commission, and she was saying that in Famona, for example, there isn't any ramp access. So people, who may be using wheelchairs and have different accessibility needs, they cannot access those buildings. So what does it mean for those people? Tariro, I'm sort of now cutting into your work, but I think if we try one last time and see if it works, but if not, it's fine. We can do it another day.
Try one more time and see what it's fine. Okay.
No, oh, can you try again? It's sounding better. Keep talking.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
but it's quite difficult. Yeah, the line is still unclear. The line is still unclear.
Natasha, can you hear me?
The line is unclear. I can hear you say you can hear me, but it's there's a lot of feedback, and so Will is saying that there's still issues. Is there anyone else still having issues hearing Tariro? Yeah, it's not clear. Okay, yeah, Tariro, I think thank you so much. And I totally understand. It's one of those things, but you know what? We're adaptable, flexible, and like I said, hopefully we'll have another conversation where we talk about that. And if there's anything that you can add into the chat about some of the key things that you wanted to talk about, because I think it's really important, when we're talking about some of the little things that help help young women, help young people participate in the electoral process, in the democratic process. But what I wanted to do now is just move on to just opening up the floor to sort of any questions. And I was kind of keen to, because Tatenda really gave us a lot to think and consider. Maybe I'll start the first question. Tatenda, I don't know if you're still online, but this is a question to Tatenda and a question to everyone else, right?
Yes, I'm still here. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tariro, I think we're still having issues with the line. I think what we'll do is we'll just park today, and hopefully we'll see if there'll be another opportunity to do this again. I think today's just one of the tech gods are not with us today. But so my question to Tenda and to anyone else who would like to chime in is, according to some of the latest reports, Zimbabwe has approximately 67.7% of its population are young people, right? And we know historically from local elections, general elections, that the attendance hasn't been as high. Tatenda, with the work that you're doing on the ground, what are the practical, what difference do you see between previous elections and the by-elections that we're talking about now and future elections, or what is the one thing that you're like, okay, this is positive, this is a positive change, and we think we're going to get a better outcome?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Well, Tariro is the difference that we all need, if I can put it like that. So I'll use Tariro as an example. What we've seen this year is that we've seen young people mobilizing each other to go register to vote. We've seen young people take up the initiative to get each other to those registration centers, to engage ZAIC, to get the kind of information that we all need. I was on Twitter the other day, and there were this group of students, though they were high school students, but they were mobilizing each other, carrying their school bags and everything. They were all mobilizing each other to go register to vote. I are looking at Tariro as well. She's a young woman in Zimbabwe, in Bulawayo. It's not like she's the richest person on earth, but she took the initiative upon herself to get a lot more young people to register to vote. So this is a shift, a complete shift in the political arena of Zimbabwe. We've never seen this happen before. And also the fact that right now, the largest percentage of our population are young people. And what we've generally seen is that in Zimbabwe, there's a certain age group that votes, and they only vote for a specific party. And now the fact that we're having young people coming forward as the largest percentage of our population, and they are coming forward and mobilizing each other to say that it is our time now to go register to vote, but it is also our time now to lead. Because I've seen there are so many young leaders that I've seen around. We have Mandate, we have Onhlanhla, we've got like different young people that are taking the initiative upon themselves to be leaders to other young people and to the rest of Zimbabwe as well. And so to me, that tells me that the political landscape in Zimbabwe has shifted, but we all need to be doing the different small things that we all can do. And it starts by the little things, that we do. What are the conversations that you're having with your siblings as a sister? What are the conversations that you're having with your children as a parent? Are you also telling your children that voting doesn't work? Are you also telling your siblings that voting doesn't work? And so most times we think that these are for us to make big changes in the world. We need to make big steps. Sometimes it is in the little things and in the little conversations. And I'm just glad to be a part of those young people that are taking the initiative to get people to register to vote and to educate, because part of the election process, especially the pre-election process, is to get people to understand the process and why it's important. And so seeing young people get information, look for information, and sharing this information, it's been a joy for me. And it's something that I'm most proud of, to be a young person, to be a young leader, and to be a young woman.
Well said, Tatenda, well said. It's really encouraging to hear such enthusiasm from young people. And like you said, the work that Tariro is doing as well. So Tariro is actually recording just some of the key things that she wanted to share with us. So once we get the recording, we will share this with all of you. But I just wanted to open up the floor. Is there anyone else that, is working in this space, encouraging people to register? What lessons, have you learned that work well, or what things are you sort of struggling with that you'd like to ask people? Will, I can see you've got your hand up. If you could unmute.
Hi, Nat. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
So I work with young people in an education setup, and even in that setup, we have systems of voting. But when it comes to sort of national elections, I think it's really important to understand why young people are not voting, because it could be them being disenfranchised or disengaged. and understanding what the cause of all of those things are. For political systems to be representative, all parts of society must be included. If we want a free and fair election, and fair in all aspects also means that the system before the actual election takes place must also be fair. So that's something that's really important to better understand why young people are not getting involved, and to make them involved, like in the work that Tariro is doing as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Will. I think you make a good point, because voter apathy, you know, is a symptom, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that people don't want to change or they don't want to engage. But we have to start tackling, you know, those issues. What make people, you know, not interested in voting? Is it the quality of candidates that are out there? You know, that young people just don't feel that this person reflects me. So I don't know if anyone else had any reflections. Hi, Sugoluhle, yes, if you could unmute.
All right. Okay. Yes. I'm so very worried, Natasha. Tariro was going to unpack these issues according to my own liking. I just wanted to say I'm a person with a disability. Yeah. So my sentiment will be based on persons with disability rather. You know, as PWDs, we have seen the political sphere of Zimbabwe not disability friendly, as it is characterized by violence. So for you to vote for a person, remember those people that you are voting for belong to those political parties. So at the end of the day, we are not that, we feel the political spheres are not conducive at the end of the day. So it's very difficult for us as women with disabilities, as young women with disabilities, to participate in politics. You know, everything begins in politics. For you to vote for a certain person, you should be in a certain political party so that you support that individual. And yeah, in relation to the voter education, allow me to say the information is not provided in disability-friendly languages. You know, persons with disabilities, some of us do not have assistive devices to maneuver from our homes, maybe to where voting will be happening, right? So at the end of the day, it becomes difficult. We are diverse, they are the visually impaired, the deaf community. So I think it's essential now for the government, for these so-called political parties to make their information in disability-friendly languages. Thank you. Here is Tariro.
Thank you so much, Sugoluhle. You have really articulated, you know, such an important point. And I'm hoping that, I mean, this will be replayed. And I know that there are people on this call that work in different organizations, and I'm hoping that they're listening, because what you've said is very, very, very important. And also it, I guess even if people aren't in politics, right? Even if you work for a civil society organization, if we start being that change in being inclusive and thinking about accessibility things, then hopefully as a community, it translates. But thank you so much, Sugoluhle. I'd be really keen to kind of follow up, and I'd encourage anyone on this call who's interested in getting more information to do so. Tariro, I can see that you're back, but I don't know if we have any luck. Tariro, but my understanding, Tariro, is that you've recorded something and we will play that, because I'm assuming the network issues.
Hi.
Yeah, the connection is still bad. I think if we go with
So bad.
can you talk?
Is bad.
Yes, on my end. I don't know if anyone else in the chat is.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think it sounds better. Go on. Tara, it was sounding a little bit better. I don't know if you want to try. Yeah, Tara, I think the connection is bad. I think if we go with option B that you had spoken to the people behind the scenes, I think yeah, hopefully we'll, like I said, we'll have another conversation. But once we have your recording, we will play it. Okay, so Ndando Svanda, can you unmute? Really keen to hear what you have to say.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So, this is a nice conversation that has been going on, and it's very educating, and I'm happy to say, what the first speaker said, and Tariro, I've seen Tariro do her work, and I'm glad that we are in the space where we have people working around the electoral processes and the pre-election. But I have sort of an ask as young people. Despite everything going on right now, it's COVID. The pandemic is still with us, and we don't know how much it's going to how much time that we have. 2023 elections. Just like you pointed out that it might look like a long time, but definitely it's not a long time, because so far so good. We're still in the pandemic and cases are rising up, and we might not have time until 2023. So my issue is, as much as we have tried in our own personal space to convince the youth to go and register to vote, they are still hesitant to vote. And most of them will give you a lot of reasons why they're not voting. And you can tell that at the end of the day, you would have tried, but you would have failed to even try to tell them to go and vote. So what is the stance that we're going to take? What stance can we take as young people to still try and tell them to go vote? Because at the end of the day, we are going to lose constituencies no matter what, because a few people have registered at the end of the day, and we'll lose constituencies if this is what is going to continue, if everything continues the way it is. So what do you think can be, I'm posing this question to everybody to say, what do you think is the way forward? How can we go about this in order to ensure that youths go and vote, youths register to vote, and youths, those who have registered before, do try and check if their names are still on the system. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ndando. So Ndando's given us a question. It's not a question to me, it's a question to everyone that is here and on Facebook watching. So, what needs to be done? If you can put in the chat, or if you want to think about it and, answer on social media, just hashtag HerVoteSpeaks. But I think the question that you pose is a really important one, and one that I personally have been thinking about. Okay, what we'll do now, in the interest of time, we've got Lezina, Rachel, and then Tatenda. Apologies, Tatenda. I know you put your hand up first, but if we can hear from Lezina, Rachel, and then Tatenda. Lezina, if you can unmute.
Hi, afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to add on the need to explain, especially to the youth, now, the importance of being a registered voter and why they have to vote. Because you get challenges where if you meet them and you'd say, let's go register to vote, why should I vote? What am I going to get out of it? You know, that kind of thing. So I think what's important is we first need to find a way of explaining to especially the youth the need and the importance of being a registered voter and to vote.
Thank you so much. Rachel?
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. So, mina i-contribution yami ngeyokuthi, I don't know if it was mentioned earlier, the issue of age. Ukuthi most people, the people that register to vote, or the people who are eligible to vote, they're supposed to be 16 years of age. Then it means that this year, if I'm 15 years, it means what I'm supposed to register to vote because I'm 15 years. While it's when elections say we are 2023, by then on 16 years already. So I think it's time where we have to look at this issue age. If you know what day you'll be 16 by then you are eligible to register to vote, because you'll find most of the people above 15 years and then the other thing we have to like especially CSOs or individuals who say ukuthi bona bangama-leaders, kumele sicapacitate the people who are eligible to vote, which when you are voting, you don't, of course, abantu represented ngabantu, but you have to know which when voting, you don't vote for a person per se, but you vote for the change that you want to see. So if you are saying, which I'm voting for Mr. Dube, it means that you are voting for the change that you think Mr. Dube is going to bring to the community, not Mr. Dube, because you do not know Mr. Dube. You are not even related to Mr. Dube. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rachel. That's a really good point about, if someone is 15. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or answer about that. And then the second point that you said about voting for, not voting for the person, but actually voting for, what they can do, I think is important. And I think I'm seeing that we need to have another discussion because I think there's a role that political parties play. Because if Mr. Dube is the person who helps everyone, around the area, and he's the person that everyone trusts, people will vote for him, right? Because they know Mr. Dube. So I think it's an issue that political parties need to be really clever who they put forward. I think some political parties are better than others. Tatenda.
Thank you so much. So, moderator, I was seeing that in the chat box there are some questions that people were asking as part of the presentation that I just did. So, can I also answer them whilst I'm doing this?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. How many minutes are you giving me? Because I can go on and on.
You've got 5 minutes to attend.
Okay, that is okay. So first of all, I'd just like to take this from what Rachel just said, her last point being on or Mr. Dube, that we vote for, Mr. Dube that we don't even know. And that was really a part of my presentation to say, who are we voting for and why? What I've realized, whether you're in Bulawayo or you're in Harare or whatever, especially the trends of the 2018 elections, were that we are all registering for a certain political party. So we don't take the initiative upon ourselves to get to know what the person is offering, who they are, what they stand for, etc. And so this has then led to them being shadow MPs and shadow councillors, people that some of them, them in the campaigning period, you vote for them, and when you put them in place, they suddenly disappear. They no longer live in the constituencies where they previously lived before. And all of a sudden, you never see them around, and you find out that you no longer know them. And this is a challenge, because for a person to be able to represent you, they need to know your issues. But we cannot always be blaming those people because, okay, if a problem keeps on repeating itself and there are constants to the problem, then in most parts, the constant is a problem too. And in this case, why are we voting for those people? Why should we continue to vote for them? In the 2023 elections, as we're saying, we want to see change, but which means we also have to change ourselves. I like what is done in the United States of America, whereby before presidential elections kick off, there are the presidential debates. So candidates debate on tropical issues or the most important issues, and then people get to hear and understand what they are saying. So what I'll just like to give this as a small advice to everyone that is here is to say, in the 2023 election, do not vote for a party, and also do not vote for a gender. Just because a person is a man doesn't qualify them for a political post. Just because a person is a woman shouldn't qualify them for a political post. But get to understand the person. What are they offering? If I am a vendor, what are they saying about vendors? Do they offer solutions to the problems that I'm facing as a vendor? Do they offer problems for the solutions that I'm facing as a young person? And have I seen them before this period? Have you seen them before 2023? What have they been doing? Because that history will show you who they actually are. So let's be wise voters. Let's just not vote. And let's also not just be voters, but let's also be people that are willing enough to take the initiative to go and be candidates. So there was also a question on what makes a person qualified to be a councillor or an MP. Well, I'll rather focus on the MP one, because that is one place that I studied and researched on. So that's one that I actually know. And so on the councillor one, I'll just like to say, you just can go and research on that one. For a person to be seen as a candidate or to be recognized as a candidate under ZEG, they have to be at least 21 years old. That's part of the requirements. And the other requirement is that they have to get the signatures of 10 people from the constituencies that they want to run. And the signatures will be to say that we confirm that this person lives here, or we want this person to be a candidate under our constituency. So if you live in Geta, you get 10 signatures of registered voters in Geta that say that we agree for this person to run, etc. Those are, I think, the two most important or the ones that I'm particularly familiar with. But I'll just like also to say something. I got this information because I researched, and I would want to advise each and every single woman that is here, if you are men as well, to make sure that we have a constitution in Zimbabwe. And some of us, or most of us, have that constitution booklet. That book has so many answers of the questions that we find ourselves asking. So let the Constitution of Zimbabwe be your best friend. Read it, study it, and it also becomes easier for you, whether you want to be a leader or you want to be, you just want to know of the laws of Zimbabwe. It becomes easier for you to ask for accountability as a citizen of Zimbabwe, because now you know if ZEC is doing what is not in the constitution or what they're not allowed to do, you can call them out on that one. You can then tell them that what you're doing is not in accordance with the law of Zimbabwe. And as a leader, you then know which boundaries are set for you and what you can also do. So please, as a young person, it is important that you research on the things that matter. Let us not only research about our makeup, our clothes, or our favorite celebrities, but it is also important that we are up to date with these things. Okay, so my last point to make is on the issue of education. I think one person talked about this. Education is so important. In the Chimurenga, the Pungo is that the people that fought for the liberation struggle, our soldiers, were as important as the fighting itself, because they knew that the Black people wouldn't give them food, wouldn't help them in hiding from the white soldiers if they didn't know what they were fighting for. So they knew that they had to educate them on why they were fighting and why they should support them, so that they could be able to also support and be part of the process of Chimurenga itself. And we saw this working. They would go to schools, they would encourage students to be a part of them. They'll tell them why they were fighting, and students from schools would then also become a part of the soldiers. And this is exactly what we're all supposed to do. Let's educate each other. Let's educate our friends. Let's educate our parents, our siblings. It is each and everyone's responsibility to educate another person on the importance of voting. And by so doing, by educating each other on the importance of voting, would have won half the battle. With that being said, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tatenda. Thank you so much. That's been really, really, really helpful, thought-provoking. Lezina, I can see you've got your hand up, but I don't know if it's from before. Please do unmute if you wanted to add to the conversation. Okay, I'll assume it's an old hand. So just looking at the chat, Will Moyer said, I think Fatai Mayer's political campaign provided some useful insights on how important party politics are in Zimbabwe. Michelle says, for youth, it's more of organizing ourselves as youth. Having these workshops that will ensure the registering and voting is important and beneficial to every youth. And what I did want to say, though, is I'm just looking at some of the comments. I think what would be really helpful as we sort of wrap up, I was hoping that Tariro would be able to send through, I think she's been trying to record a video of the key things she wanted to say. So I'm still sort of looking out in the next minute or two to see if anything comes through. But if not, what I would say is please do follow Tariro on social media. I'm sure her pages, someone from Wild can share her pages on the chat, because I think the work that she's doing is really, really, really important. And you know, like Suolihle articulated, you know, the importance of, you know, really being inclusive in every way, as a way of encouraging people and getting people drawn in to you know, taking part in the democratic process. What I will say, my ask from you guys as we sort of wind down is, what is one thing that you are taking away from this conversation that you've had? So it could either be one thing that you've learned or heard that you did not know, or one thing that you're like, okay, this is what I am going to do moving forward to do my bit. You can unmute, or if you're comfortable, please just put it in the chat. Just one thing that you're going to do. It could be, you know what, I'm going to speak to more people about registering to vote, or it could be, I'm going to sort out my ID because it's expired. It could be that I'm going to talk to my parents about something, or I'm going to speak to my counselor. I'm going to be more active in this way. I'm just really interested to hear, you know, what is the one thing, because otherwise we would have just come and just talked. And but if we could just take away one thing, because then it means that this discussion was meaningful. Thank you, Dizile. Dizile has put Tariro's Twitter handle in the chat, so if you could please follow her. Okay, one thing that I will take away is that a lot of the stuff that Tatenda was talking about, I did not know about the number of people that you need to be registered in a particular place, to have to be considered a constituency, so that you have an MP. I honestly did not know that. So I am going to do a little bit more research. I thought I knew politics, but Tatenda has shown me that I really don't. And I think a lot of us sometimes focus on the national politics, right? But then actually, you know, a nation is made up of local places. So we need to know how the local governing systems work, because if we've got really strong local systems, then it fits into the nation. So that's been my takeaway, that, you know what, more needs to be done locally and not just focusing on the big items. Okay, some interesting things coming in the chat. I'm going to read them out quickly, but if anyone wants to sort of unmute, will do, and just shout out if it's easier, please do. Persistence said, I'm going to encourage young women to register to vote, explain the process and importance of voting. Really, really good. Sugolisha says, I'm going to encourage more people to register. Oh, sorry. Will encourage the disability fraternity to register to vote so that we increase the number of constituencies in Bulawayo. Really important. Sandra says, I'm going to encourage more people to register. I didn't realize voting in Zim has made such great changes. Was believing it doesn't work. So Tatenda, people are hearing what you're saying. Neta says, I'm going to facilitate more conversations and dialogue around the electoral processes and encourage people in my circles to register to vote. That's really, really good. Abigail says, I will preach to others about the process of delimitation and how it will affect us if we don't register in numbers to vote. Will says, I'll definitely be speaking to my social circle to register to vote and use it Tatenda's explanation of zoning and try and convince them. I'm pretty sure there's a lot that I've missed. Wuhle says, I won't be playing with people who think registering and voting are not important. That's a, sometimes you need to, you know, you need to take a hard line. I like that. And Bridget says, I'm going to register to vote. Someone said, Lydia, I'm going to encourage more young people to engage and familiarize themselves with registration and voting process. Yeah, that is really, please keep them coming. And apologies if I didn't read out your particular one, but we've got 30 plus people who've seen what you've committed to. So even me, you know, you can ask me and be like, Natasha, you know, do you now know more about local, you know, why are you not helping promote whatever, you know, processes for local governance? So you can hold me accountable to that. I think, you know, we were waiting for Tariro, but like I said, you know what, we are at the mercy of you know, the internet, and just sometimes the connection is not great. I'm sure it's happened to us as well, but nonetheless, I don't know about you, I have really enjoyed this discussion that we've had. I have learned a lot. I am encouraged by the energy and zeal of young people. You know, I consider myself kind of young, but I'm not really. I'm not as young as Tariro and Tatenda, I think. But I'm really encouraged about that, because young people have the energy, they have the zeal, and young people have the ideas. You know, I think when you get older, you get a bit jaded. So I just really wanted to, so Ashley says, I'm going to register to vote and encourage more young women to vote and explain the importance of registering to vote to them. And then Tuduzile says that so Wild will share Tariro's presentation on Wild social media pages. Yeah, so that's what we'll do. But just in closing, just wanted to say thank you so much to all of you for taking the time to join. It shows that you care. It shows that you're interested. It shows that you're motivated, that you've taken the time to join this conversation. This conversation has been hosted by the Women's Institute for Leadership Development in Bulawayo, who are doing great work and are really, you know, motivated to build leadership capability in young people, and particularly young women. So we thank them, and we thank you so much to Tatenda and also to Tariro, just for taking their time preparing for today, sharing what they know with us. So please do make sure that you continue following their work. And even if you didn't, and thank you to all of you who've participated in the chat, you know, who've shared your reflections. It's been really, really helpful. And to all of you for just attending. So what I would like to leave you with is definitely just remember the things that you've committed to, even if you didn't put it down. Whatever you've thought about, let's take it forward so that this doesn't just become just one discussion that we've just had and then we leave it there. Clearly, there is room for there's clearly room for more for us to learn. But what I'll do before we close off, I will pass on to Mosunare from the Women's Institute for Leadership Development for closing remarks. Mosu, are you online?
Hi, Natasha.
Hello.
Yes. Okay, mine is very short. I think you have really covered everything that I would have said. As Natasha has said, my name is Mosunare. I'm the legal officer at Women's Institute for Leadership Development. Like what Natasha has said, this has been a very informative discussion. It was really power-packed, and it's really exciting to see young women who are actually taking out their time to actually talk about key issues around national building and development. I mean, most of the times when people discuss these things, it seems like young women, they would rather focus on softer issues instead of these more important issues. But what I got from today's meeting is really we have young women who are really focused on what we can do to improve the landscape so that women are more able, young women are more free to actually exercise their right to vote. So what I can say is that as much as it is true that we have a lot of voter apathy, especially among young women, this can be maybe due to the political landscape that we are in. We have seen young women who are demotivated because of broken promises from their leaders who made promises during the campaigns. We have seen also the issues of recalls of leaders that people had voted into. So all these issues may have caused apathy amongst young women. But as Tatenda highlighted earlier, if you don't exercise that right to vote, someone else is going to. And they are going to choose a person of their own choice, which may not be really what you would have wanted. So as much as there are challenges in the political landscape, but it is still our right as young women. We always complain and say that we don't see young women in leadership. But if we just sit and when young women are campaigning, when they want to be voted in and there's no one to support them, then we are going to be crying for a long time. We won't have representation. Our issues will remain unattended to because there's no one to articulate them. So I would really want to encourage young women that even as registering to vote is open, less this opportunity to vote, so that when 2023 comes, we are ready and we are able to actually choose people whom we think they have our best interests at heart. So without going any further, I would really like to thank you, Natasha, for moderating this meeting and keeping the conversation going and exciting. Also, thank you to Tatenda. We had so much powerful stuff to share with us or get input, but I believe that in the upcoming programs, we'll be able to also engage with her and hear what she has to say. I would also like to thank everyone who took their time to attend this important meeting. Even as young women, I know we have access to social media platforms. Let's keep the conversations going. Let's keep on encouraging each other to register to vote in our different spheres where we are operating from. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll hand over to Natasha as she closes the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Moses. Really, really well said. And my thanks to the Women's Institute for Leadership Development. Thank you so much for taking the time to bring this all together. It's been such a productive conversation that we've had and the beginning of so many the conversation on Facebook, on Twitter. Make sure you tag Wild. Make sure you tag them. Really important because you don't know, someone may, and they may just see a comment about registering to vote or about local elections and local governance, and then it will something will click in their mind, which will be powerful. But I just want to say thank you so much to all of you. I see future leaders here, and it's just really exciting. And I'm hoping some of you have said that you will take forward having more of these conversations. Please do invite us when you do. It's not just for wild, inqobe iyini lani. So, make sure that you do that and just continue doing that, because, Zimbabwe is home, Bulawayo is home, and we want it to be the best place it can be. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a good afternoon.